Hello, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk Cyber episode 3. And today we have with us Bernard Niehaus from Digisure. Bernard is the managing director of Digisure. And Bernard, thank you so much for joining us today. I think the best way to establish authority is by introducing oneself. So, if I were to ask you to introduce yourself to our viewers, can you please do that?
Awesome. Thank you, Ankita. Thank you for having me on. I was born in South Africa, immigrated to New Zealand as an 18-year-old now, 21 years ago. Um, I've always been super grateful to be here. New Zealand's fantastic, as you're well aware.
Yeah.
Thankful for my parents to bring us out here. But I'm a true Kiwi at heart. Barbecue, sport, family time, fishing, those kind of things. Married with 3 children. Inspirational wife who keeps me going daily. Yeah, completely.
Wonderful.
But I live on a rural property, which is something that I enjoy with the kids. So we have sheep and chickens and stuff like that. So I guess the one thing about it for me has been the fact that I'm me, unapologetically me. I don't change. I want what's best for everyone and for things like that. So yeah, just me, to be honest. Good old Kiwi bloke, I guess.
Which is wonderful because when you're doing business you have to be yourself. You can't fake yourself, so that's great that
Yeah, yeah,
you're
definitely.
you. Yeah. And your your journey from working at Pakuranga Children's Health Camp to becoming the managing director of Digisure, how fascinating was that? Tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all stems from the same core, which there's a focus on trying to help people and help do the right thing with people. So I think it's important, and it's the same thing we focus on at Digisure as what we focused on it. As a providing individuals with the opportunity to grow, develop, and understand themselves. Right, and for us, whether that be a system, a product, or a company, it's the growth part. So yes, definitely big changes, big learnings. But it also, I learned how to interpret behavior as a language at that point in time, which is always an interesting one.
Right.
And I think we apply that throughout Digishow as well, whether it's corporate behavior or individuals' behavior. The behavior is the part that is interesting to look at, And I've always, for me, the old adage that says, teach a human to fish and they feed themselves for a lifetime is where we're focused on. I think the part that flows from me for that is the fact that actually if you teach someone to fish, they can teach others to fish, and it just keeps growing. And it's the same thing you see with when we
Mhm.
worked at the health camp,
Yeah.
empowering children. They start empowering each other. The same with businesses. You see that in your line. Once a business does well, they empower others to do well as well because they learn from each other. Because we assimilate and we learn behavior that way.
That's totally right.
Yeah. So
Absolutely. And I believe you have a master's degree in psychology. What motivated you to take psychology, and how it helped you in your professional career?
well, I started from psychology, and yes, I do have a master's degree in psychology with a focus on the children and young people. But discovered
Wow.
a area in regards to industrial and psychology, which is all about organizational behavior, which sparked this whole thought and train of thinking for me around how companies can change within each other, which is a really interesting one. And then, I mean, it applies to a lot of the stuff that's happening in the cyber world, because obviously behavior is the biggest catalyst for either success or failure in regards to
Yeah.
cyber attack. If people are well versed and trained in this, they do well. And so we're digital. What we try and do is we use that psychology of business behavior to predict future actions, or at least analyze current actions. And that would be via cyber, that could be via any of our other products, but there's a whole range of that. So, discovered, and I've always wanted to learn.
Mhm.
I continuously want to learn, and working with organizations, watching them grow, working with people, watching them grow is a massive learning experience for everyone involved. So yeah, I've enjoyed that.
That's wonderful to hear, because even I believe that if you help others succeed, that's how you succeed as well. So you in business especially, you can't just think about your business and yourself, and
Yeah.
not
Success
taking care about other people.
success is not an individualized, isolated incident because none of
Yeah,
us can be
yeah,
successful without others. It's not,
that's true.
and I think that's the one thing that's important because quite often, we talk about competition, we talk about all of these things, and they're all well needed because without competition, we don't strive to
Mhm.
be better. Without customers,
Yeah,
there's no deal to do this, right? And so, no business is an isolation part to this. We all need our people, and that's fantastic.
wonderful. And you've been in the insurance industry for quite a while now. Tell us about your work. What do you do, and how do you do it? And if I were to enter the industry, what would be my roadmap,
Well,
or how would it look like?
yeah, insurance is an interesting one. It's one of those jobs where when you sit at school and people talk to you, you never say, "Hey," or very seldomly do you say, "I want to be a insurance specialist or a claim specialist." It's not something that's high on the job
Yes.
priority scale, right? And so, stumbled into it because there was some interesting work to be done there, and then found that role of assisting and helping people was something that I found quite interesting. But also the fact that there's a lot of intricacies and details. So I worked and managed in the claims department, and so being able to work in a
Hmm.
claims department, seeing both sides of the equation, where you have the need of the insurance company, but you also have the high end need of the consumer, the user, whether that be a business or a customer, an individual, is very fascinating. And it's even more fascinating to see how the insurance industry tries to balance that so that they do give back more than what they actually take. And I mean, the insurance industry cop a lot because they make a lot of money. That's what the world thinks out there. But when you're
Yeah.
when you're in a crisis and the only thing that gets you your house back is the insurance company's money, it's incredible to see how people's influence
Hmm.
is influenced by that. So if I would suggest anything to anyone who starts in this industry, I would start with claims. It sounds interesting because most people don't want to do that because there's a lot of hard work sitting in the back of that, which is sometimes emotional because you work with people
Yeah.
at their most distressful times. But you get to see all parts, and you get to see and understand the value of insurance, because I think value of insurance is quite often forgotten. Because it's one of those things.
Yeah.
It's an evil thing. I have to buy. I heard the other day someone say it's a grudge purchase. It's not something I want, but it's something
Oh,
I have to have. So
have to.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things, and it probably is for a lot of people. It's just really hard. Why do I
Mm.
need to buy this and spend this money if I'm never going to use it until I actually have to use it? Then it becomes very beneficial. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, so Digisure, what we've done is we've taken all of the traditional processes and put it into digital format, and we're looking to help organizations and businesses, because we've got a very big commercial focus, to cut down on their costs that they have to put in to get their insurances, because quite often it's costly for businesses, but also to reduce time, because time is quite often, especially in the SME world, is worth money and is very valuable to an SME owner. So if they
Hmm.
have to spend weeks trying to get their insurance, they're losing out on doing something that makes them, that actually makes money. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a big
Yeah.
focus for us on that part. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about cyber insurance now. Now you're from the insurance industry. Enlighten us with what it is, what it covers, and why will I, as a customer, ever need it? Well, I know because I'm in the same industry, but it's for the viewers.
Yeah. So it's an interesting one because, I mean, if you look around New Zealand, there's a lot of commercial cyber that's available. I mean, not well enough understood yet, but I mean, it's there. And it's maybe not tailored to smaller businesses just yet. There's a big move towards that, and we see a lot of that now, where there's sort of these
Hmm.
tailored products for SMEs and stuff like that to help out. But one of the major focuses we have and what we've had is on the individual family cyber, because obviously we believe that people are all at risk, just like, I mean, like you guys do. We understand that. We don't think we're not disillusioned by the fact that It's not going to happen. It's just when will it happen to all of us? And it does happen. So, one of the
Yeah.
big things that we cover off with some of our products, and we do this in multiple countries now, is, identity theft, financial fraud, e-wallet protection, which is an interesting one. There's countries where that's a massive focus because e-wallets are becoming the big thing now. I mean, I was at Eden Park on Saturday at the rugby. They're cash free. It's a cash-free zone.
Mm-hmm.
So they use your card at the moment.
Yeah.
Eventually, it won't be your card. It'll be an e-wallet on your phone that you're going to use or on your phone or on your
Right.
watch or whatever. And there's countries out there that are at that place already because it's easier. And so they want e-wallet protection. And, countries like Vietnam and places like that, they have a very big focus on that. And it's really, really interesting. Then you have your normal ransomware, malware stuff where people get very attacked. And then you get cyber extortion. And then there's the obvious, restoration cost, which
Mm-hmm.
is the big one for everyone. I want my stuff fixed and I want it fixed now. And restoration cost usually includes the,
Yeah.
retrieval of data is a big thing on that. And then we're starting to get into the really interesting ones. And some of the stuff here in New Zealand, actually, that's starting to look at is the cyberbullying side of this. How can we have a social
Yeah.
conscious as an insurer and provide that facility? So, we're talking with people here who are now looking at bringing in a counseling service, not just a online tech support, but a counseling service as part of their cyber, because there's a lot of that going on. And then you have the smart homes, the smart cars, which are all really interesting things as well.
Yeah.
It's still developing and certain parts, but there is. And if I go back to the cyberbullying, you see a lot of universities now and high schools and places like that being hacked across the world. And it's because there's a good target, lots of individuals using the same network, not all potentially well enough trained to protect themselves. So ultimately, that happens a lot. And so there's some big focuses across the world on these ones. And more and more we're seeing, that social awareness, that social conscious around, what is the best interest? How do we take care of our students? How do we do that? So actual schools
Mm-hmm.
and unis looking to enforce and do that. So there's some really interesting things happening in that space. So yeah, and to answer the question, what does it cover? There's a whole range, and it depends on where we're from and what we're doing really in which
Yeah.
country. And that's the the really cool part, but it's also the really hard part because it means that people have so much choice that they don't choose or they don't know what to
Mm-hmm.
choose, and so it becomes a difficult choice for them. So we see that
Right.
insurers now pick maybe two or three of those as their core covers, and you'll find that restoration cost is always there because that's one of the big ones that everyone wants. But we might find that in this one particular part, it's just identity theft, or whether it's just ransomware, malware. The one that is really hard and that people don't seem to do a lot is cyber extortion. And there's two reasons for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that there's a belief that cyber extortion only happens to high-end, high-value individuals.
Oh,
And it's
no,
like
that's just a myth.
it's insane. It's insane. And
Yeah.
it's because when we think about extortion, you're thinking about hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars are being extorted. You're not thinking $200, $300, $400. But if I hit 1,000 people,
Yeah.
I do really well, right? And so that's I think the difference. And
Yeah.
and
That's true.
I was listening to someone who was saying the other day, was saying, this is one of the only times, and an attack where one attack by a single user from a single device can affect multiple people at the exact same moment in multiple territories. Most other criminal activities happens in a specific location, because it's a physical event. This is something that can happen anywhere. We could have the same attack happening in New Zealand as in Australia as in Singapore at the very same time, and we don't know. And so those are the
Yeah.
interesting aspects to it because it's anywhere.
Yeah. Hackers just want to hack. They don't care who they're hacking. So yeah,
Exactly,
they
exactly,
don't
and they're
they
very
don't
good at it.
differentiate.
No, no, yeah, no, they're not
Yeah,
picky.
they're very good
Let's
at
be
it.
honest, they don't discriminate at all.
Yeah,
They
they're not
take
picky.
Yeah, it's one of those where everyone goes, equal rights on that one. So that's good.
True. Now we both know that cyber threats, they are evolving. So how flexible is the Digisure? If a client wants to modify a cover, is it doable or
Yes. So that's one of the big things we offer an insurer is that
Mhm.
flexibility and an ability to identify issues and change within a 24 hour period, and they're new out there with a new product. So once they've got it, it's going. But because for a traditional insurer, they would have a meeting with their underwriting team. The underwriting team would have a
Mhm.
team with a market research team, and the research team would tell them what issues they've noticed 3 weeks ago or a month ago, and they will then work
Mhm.
through the process, and it'll go through the chain. We will eventually go back to someone who will change the cover. That is now changing and is evolving. I mean, we've seen people in companies in Southeast Asia who within 6 hours will go, hey, notice something happening here. First thing we need to do is this: we need to educate
Mhm.
our customers. So let's send everyone a notification out
Yeah.
that says, hey, be aware this is happening right now. And then let's change the cover to support, bring on extra support staff, bring on extra people. And you're talking 6 hours from the first original issue being identified. Now,
Interesting.
this is unheard of in traditional insurance, just because it's a hard place to do it, because it's a physical change, and that's where I guess the insurtech world is really complementary to insurance. I mean, it's an interesting thing because we get asked a lot, are you a disruptor of the insurance industry? And it's like, no, we're not. We're an enabler. We enable insurance
Mhm.
companies to enhance their ability. We enable customers to get the best out of this. So, yeah, that's one of the things we do, and it's not operationally as expensive because obviously having a whole team running backwards and forwards to do these things is very expensive for an insurer.
Yeah.
Where for on an IT platform, that it's an easier fix.
Is there any incident or incidents that are excluded from the coverage, like a BYOD policy, bring your own device policy?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the last year has been it's now 18 months, I guess, has been an interesting one on this one,
Yeah.
because previously, your commercial cyber covered your commercial cyber, which meant everything attached to your business. And so you wouldn't have had cover for, your personal devices. Then what happened is the world turned upside down and everybody had to go home and work from home. So a lot of insurers have let that part go, whereas just personal devices being used for business purposes are covered now. But we're seeing that there's a lot more now that are coming back out again that are saying things like you need to specify are your people using, and obviously, well, the moment they use a personal, there's a much higher premium and stuff like that that'll happen. Not on all instances; it's not a general rule. You get some really good ones out there that just go, "Hey, a work device is a work device. It's what it is." But we've got people now
Yeah.
doing things
Yeah.
like, are you connecting to a local network somewhere? Are you sitting at McDonald's and connecting to the McDonald's or the coffee shop or whatever? And the reason for that is
Mm.
because physical shop, offices for insurance companies in certain countries have now shut down. So their office based workforce has actually become a mobile workforce. And because they're a mobile workforce, they actually connect
Yeah.
to Wi-Fi anywhere they can, and so, or they hot desk or they do stuff. So
Anyway.
there's some
Yeah.
really, really interesting things happening around that. But, insurance companies don't seem to be holding a hard and fast track on the fact that that's happening. So we are seeing that. I mean, the interesting part where this happens is for a uni now, like we were talking about. We're at a university. If a university has a
Hmm.
commercial cyber policy, does it only cover all of their devices, or does it cover every student's device that comes into and attaches to their network? Now, there's some policies that will. There's others that just won't. It just won't. If it's a personal thing, it's gone. And so that's why there's now plans and things coming out that says, hey, the uni is actually getting a policy included in their fee for students, to cover students, to protect students, because ultimately they protect themselves as well, right? We know that, but
Awesome.
it's heartbreaking when you in your final exam of any degree, and somebody locks up your computer and tells you you've got to pay a ransom of $500 or five
Yeah,
hundred
these
ringgit.
attacks plays a huge impact on the lives of people.
Yeah,
So yeah.
and one of the interesting things that we have with that is the fact that it seems to be that we forget that people who get hacked and get all of these things have an emotional reaction as well. Because usually it's
Definitely.
not just a physical thing. It's not, in actual fact, it's far less of a physical thing than another
Yes.
attack, right? So it's that fear of. I was listening to someone talking the other day, and they were saying, every time I now get an email, I'm super worried about clicking on the link, even if I know the person. And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
that's a bit harsh,
Yeah.
but it is what it is, right? And you can see it. I mean, you take one of these big companies that have been brought down by an email scam over the last, well, we won't name anyone. You imagine you're an employee at that,
Yeah. Yeah.
where you're an
Let's not
employee, yeah,
anyone.
yeah, you're an employee at that workplace. I mean, every email you get in now, you'll be paranoid to open an attachment, and that's not good either. So there is some real help that's needed
Mm.
there for people and individuals, I think.
Yeah, and before you go, I have another question. I mean, the last question. The most important question is how much will the company have to pay to avail a cyber insurance?
Yeah, so
Because often companies don't avail.
it's an interesting one because obviously commercial cyber ranges, and it depends on what you do. It depends on where you're located and how big your workforce is. So there's so many variables on it. So at the moment, it's actually really hard to just put a pin in and say this is what you're going to pay, because of the fact that
Yeah,
people, because organizations predominantly are individualized in this aspect. It's not like a building or a motor vehicle fleet, which is all the same, right? In a lot of regards, it's what kind of devices do you use? What kind of activity do you participate in? Which customers do you have? Do you house it? Do you have it in the cloud? So that aspect affects the insurance, and so that's where the complexities of this comes in, and that's where that's the things we're working on with people now, is saying, hey, let's
right.
let's make it so that if I select on my application, remote workforce, 17 staff, Singapore and New Zealand, I can click on it and I can have that as a single quick instant fix like that.
All
Because
right.
what you have at the moment is you send off a piece of paper to a broker will look to find you cover somewhere, and you're left in that
Mhm.
instance, and then I come back, and it's a very individualized one, and some of them can be super expensive, others can be the $1,000 $2,000 annually, depending on what you want covered and how much sum insured you want. So there's a little bit of a
Exactly.
backwards and
Yeah.
forwards. Now when you come to the personal side, it's becoming a lot more clearer that there's the average household policy is around $80 to $150 annually, depending on what you have covered and also who's covered. If it's an individual, you don't expect to pay more than sort of $10 a month, which is sounds
Right.
doesn't sound like much, but when people don't understand why they
Yeah.
need the insurance, when people don't understand why they need this insurance, then 2 cups of coffee sounds a lot to give up for insurance.
Yeah. That's
And
yeah.
it's an interesting one because once someone's
Yeah.
been a victim of an incident, that's super cheap. It's really cheap because it
Yeah.
means so much. But so
Yeah. The cost.
yeah, go for it.
Yeah, the cost of recovering from a cyber attack is too much than getting the insurance in the first place.
Yeah, it is definitely. So I mean, there's some great talks here in New Zealand now about this and offering a product like that, for that sits in that range, and that's working on with the local New Zealand company doing really good things. But the reality with it is there's a big education part that needs to happen as a part of that, because we need to
Yeah.
understand, I mean, there was an article released that said personal cyber insurance will be the next home house contents and life insurance, where it just becomes the norm to buy over the next 5 to 10 years. And the reality with that is because it's becoming such a common thing to see these attacks happening, it'll be just a part of what happens. Now, yes, we see companies who include it in their home policy. So you have your home policy and you can have a cyber addition to it. And that it's quite interesting because that comes around about $500 a year. Is sort of an average price that I've seen, which is interesting because it's far more expensive than they're getting the freestanding one. But hey, people do that.
Yeah.
And quite often, if you ask someone, did you take the cyber extension on your house policy? It's really interesting because they go, yeah, I think I did. And you go, okay, so what do you have covered? And they go, yeah, I have no idea. And you go, why not? And it's like, well, when I spoke to someone, they said, would you like cyber protection? And I went, yeah, good idea. Put it in there because it's just part of the package and I'll pay it monthly and it's done. So it's an education thing. And I mean, doing the things you do and some of the other companies out there, I mean, is really, really important. It's this big work towards, I mean, you've got Certain Z who puts out stuff all the time. You've got, NetSafe who's doing their part, but there's still that link of education seemingly missing, as from my point of view. And so there's a role that needs to be played. I saw some interesting research that was done that said, 60% of businesses or small SMEs in a particular country, they believe they would be hacked or they could be attacked, which is quite, so that's good. But of those 60%, right, only 8% believe that they were personally at risk as well. And so you go down and you think about it, it's like, wow, okay. So what we do is we see people who are thinking their business might be at risk. They may not potentially do something about it because they don't really know how. This is the other answer. But they do actually also have the flip side where personally they don't think they're at risk. And so it's really, really interesting. And you ask the question of saying, okay, so you're an SME owner. Your laptop for business is your personal laptop as well. And you go, yeah, of course. I don't have two laptops. Like, who carries two laptops? That's crazy. Or your iPad, do you use the same iPad for personal stuff as well? Oh, yeah. I mean, we see that with the, you see that in the construction industry. Lots of guys coming around with their iPads doing fantastic stuff now with the digital world, but they connect to anyone's Wi-Fi. They go anywhere to connect. There's just just a very large one there, but it's a very much growing and evolving environment that people need lots of education on, and by people I mean ourselves as well. We learn stuff every day on this. I mean, it's a super fascinating area to work in. Yes, we play in multiple territories in this. We do this on in various occasions with very large insurers, with very small insurers, with different products. But ultimately, we all learn every day, because it's still evolving. It's one of those really interesting things that seems to still be evolving in front of us.
Yeah, and then that's also my aim to do these Let's Talk Cyber series, because I get to talk with people and it's one way to educate people. And I want to make it short. So, if somebody is driving to work, they can, listen to, say, today's episode of Let's Talk Cyber with Bernie, and then they get to know more about cyber insurance. So that's one way of educating people. So
Yeah,
it's great to know that, that you're also doing the same thing. I believe that education should be free.
yeah.
And
And
that's
I
my
think
way
it's
of,
the connection as well, connecting with a company like yours and like ours. There may not seem to be a genuine straight line connection, but there is a lot, right? And there's a lot of crossover. I mean, and there's a lot of this talk about competition and stuff like that. And it's like,
that's right.
the insurtech and fintech world here, they're having a big event next week at a very large broker about cyber. We're all going. It's no matter who's a competition to who, because we're all going to learn something. You're going to sit there and you're going to be
Yeah.
educated, and you're going to connect with someone who understands something, teaches you something, and you go from there. So it's really, really
No,
good.
I totally agree with you. And before you go, Bernie, if our viewers who are listening to us and they want to reach out to you or Digisure in regards to cyber insurance, how can they?
Yeah,
What's the best way to contact?
they can either email us, they can just email me directly, or they can just do inquiry@digisureglobal.com. But yeah, or just visit our website. There's a form and there's all kinds of stuff. Quite easy to find on LinkedIn. I don't think it's too hard. So there's all these aspects, and we're always willing to talk about it because it's something that just needs to happen. We believe.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, and thank you so much for educating us about cyber insurance and the interesting stuff that you do in this space. And it
Yeah,
was
no,
it
thank
was
you.
lovely speaking with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all you do for us as well. Thank you.
Not a problem. Have a lovely day ahead.
Same to you. Thank you.